All right, Coach Byerly here, and today we're going to talk about inequality and interval notation using a few graphs. We will start off with a number line, and I've got a few of these already drawn up here, trying to save some time for us. So on this number line, we have values graphed between the number -3 and +1. So if we're going to write this as an inequality, and we'll label these values with x's right here. So the x's are going to be greater than -3 and less than 1. Now, since we have open circles right here, that means it is not including the -3 or the +1. So we are graphing everything greater than -3 and less than +1. Okay, so that means -2.99999, as many nines as we want to go, would be included here. But once we get to 3, that is not included. Now, if we were to include the -3, that would be a filled in circle. Okay, that means it is including -3, so it is also equal. That would change our sign to x is now greater than or equal to the -3. Okay, so fairly simple concept. Open circle is either less than or greater than, depending on which way we're going. If it is filled in, closed circle, that would be equal sign needed with that. Now, that's an inequality. A true interval notation is written with either parentheses or brackets. We don't use that a whole lot, but I'll just quickly give you a description of that. The interval here, it's going to look like an ordered pair. So -3 to 1. Anytime we have an open circle, that is a parentheses. Anytime it is a closed circle, that would be a bracket. So this interval notation lets me know that the x values are greater than or equal to -3, less than, because it does not equal, it is a parentheses, not a bracket, less than 1. And just quickly showing you that, we do not use that a lot right now, but good for you to know in case you see that or look at that in the future. So the rest of these I will continue with inequalities. Now, this one, I have vertical, okay, and then this will get us into domain and range here in a second. Horizontal, when we look at a graph, the horizontal axis going left to right is our x, as you should know. Vertical line would be our y-axis. Okay, so let's use y right here. Our smallest value is -2. Okay, our greatest value is +2. So we know the y values are going to go between -2 and +2. So I will write my smallest number first, -2. Since I'm dealing with a vertical line, let's go ahead and call these y's +2. So my y values graphed are going to be greater than, and again, that is a closed circle, so equal to. Y is greater than or equal to -2, and it is below, not including 2. So it's below 2, not including, because it's open dot, open circle. So my inequality for this graph would be -2 is less than or equal to y, less than +2. Now let's combine those and look at a true graph with an x and y axis on here. So first of all, domain again is our x values. So let's look at, we go with purple here. My x values on this graph go from -3 all the way across to a +1. Okay, so it's nothing different than what we did on these first two examples. My domain, again, being x, we will write -3 is my smallest, 1 is my greatest. open circle, right? X values are greater than that. Since it is open and not equal, it's just going to be this symbol right here. Okay, x is greater than the -3, or -3 is less than x, however you'd prefer to read that. And this case, x is less than 1, everything left of the 1. But since we have a filled-in circle, that would also be equal, closed dot. Okay, so that is my domain. Now range, we do exactly the same as we did right here. So my range on this graph, it's not just the circles. Okay, in this case, the graph goes below that dot. So my lowest value on this graph is right here at -2. Y values, the highest point we get to is, in this case, that is not a 1, that would be a 3. Okay, so the highest value would be +3. Again, Y values would be vertical. That is my range. So in this graph, my range would be greater than -2, less than 3. Those are my numbers. Let's look at what my sign should be. Obviously, this one, filled in circle. So we are less than or equal to 3. Now this one, you have to be careful. Some people look at that dot and think it should just be greater than. But again, we're not going from this dot, we're going from the lowest point, which that is an actual point on the graph. Okay, it's including everything on that line. So that is actually a filled-in circle on that line. So that would also be equal to. So range would be y, in this case, is between the -2 and the 1, including both points. So -2 is less than or equal to y, less than or equal to 3. Okay, let me advance this just a little bit. Let's, I'm just going to change this quickly. Let's say we have an arrow. All right, excuse my non-artistic arrow right here, but in this case, my numbers continue to go forever and ever, okay, which would be, in this case, infinity. So I know in this, looking at this graph, we could write it the same way as we did before. -3 is my smallest point. Going left and right, let's call that x. So the x's are greater than or equal to -3. It goes forever, which that sideways figure 8 looking symbol is infinity. Okay, so -3 is less than or equal to x, is less than infinity. You may see it written like that. The simplest way to write this would just be x is greater than or equal to -3. Same thing, but this is how I would write that. It's how you would probably see that. All numbers greater than or equal to -3. Now, if I change this graph right here, let me clear some of this out. And let's do this. I'll do that. Actually, let me do this. We're going to go forever both directions right here. So, last example. So, domain. So, again, domain, range. Let's say in this case, domain is x values. So, left to right. Does this graph ever stop if we go left? Right? It has an arrow. It's going to continue going left forever and ever. So, again, domain is x. It's going to be greater than negative infinity, forever and ever to the negative numbers. Same thing, if we go to the right, it's going to go forever and ever going positive direction. So it's going to be less than positive infinity. So if it goes forever and ever both directions, we can say that would be all real numbers. Or the symbol for that, excuse me, would be kind of the double-legged R right there. So that is the same thing as all real numbers. Now the range, last one, range is y. Okay, the y has a low point. The low point on the y is -2. Okay, so -2, again, being an actual point on that line, would be included. So y is greater than or equal to -2. Does this graph ever stop going up? Right, both directions right here. It's going to continue forever and ever. So that would be infinity. Right? So again, we could write that this way, or just say the y is greater than or equal to -2. So just a few quick examples on inequality and just a simple look at interval notation. Hopefully that made sense. Again, you have other videos in Khan Academy. You have your teachers to help you along the way. So please make sure you let us know if you have any questions.